Hi, this is Jo Ann Kobuke, midlife coach and founder of MIDLIFE REWRITTEN. And today I'm fortunate to have with me Wendy Packer. Wendy Packer is a California fashion blogger for mature women over 50. And you can find her at her blog, Fashion Over 50. And you have to spell out 50 because it looks like someone else has the URL with the 50 on it. So welcome, Wendy. It's good to see you.
Hi, Jo Ann. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Well, it's good. It looks like maybe we have a little bit of a delay, a lag time in our internet connection, but we'll just do the best that we can. So, Wendy, we had a chance to meet at the Influencers of Midlife conference in Atlanta last month, and it was really great to get to know you. I really was so happy that we had breakfast together at the end. And you know, I have to say, I was so impressed with what you told me with respect to how you reinvented yourself over the years, starting out as a nurse and then going on to law school and becoming a malpractice lawyer and now as a fashion blogger. So welcome. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you for asking me. I'm very honored.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this. The way I usually start out these interviews is I ask the question, what was it about midlife that was a surprise? You know, we all have these kind of midlife myths, right? Things that we think midlife is going to be all about. But when you actually get there, sometimes you're surprised. So what was it that surprised you?
You know, I don't know if I ever really thought that I would change during midlife. I've never ever really slowed down ever since, you know, I'm at the same pace, which is pretty fast.
Yeah.
I had children late in life. I didn't have my first son until I was 40, and my second son until I was 41. So I was in Mommy and Me with, you know, younger women. And so I didn't really consider myself older at the time and then I took off. As you said earlier, I was a nurse and then I became a lawyer. I practiced law and that I almost forgot to have kids, but did at the last minute, really down to the wire. And so I took off. I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to work. I worked part-time doing different things. I worked as a nurse. I worked as a lawyer while my kids were growing up. I made jewelry. I had a lot of careers while I was raising my kids too, so that I could stay home with them. And I did a lot of part-time things. But then when I was about 55, 56, and I started looking for a job, that was the most surprising thing of all, because I still felt so young at 56. I mean, my kids were just graduating from high school, and I thought the world is my oyster. Now I don't have to come home to anyone who's got a fever or make dinner. I mean, my husband can make his own dinner, and he gets home late anyway. So I thought, what a catch am I? You know, I can stay till midnight if I want. And my brain is the same. Well, I could not find a job. I had just finished a certificate at UCLA in healthcare management and was trying to get out of doing what I had done before, which was representing doctors who got sued for malpractice. And I didn't want to go back to being a litigator. So I thought I would kind of segue into something new. And I went to a law conference. And I met this great man who had just retired from being the director of Medicare for the regional area of the West Coast. And he said, give me your resume. I'll find you something. Don't worry. You've got a great resume. Well, it was about 4 months and he could not find anything for me. And so I was shocked. I'm like, no one, you know, like he said, I've sent it out everywhere.
Wow.
And what I ended up doing was volunteering for Medicare for about a year. And I would go out and anyway, I volunteered, but I was living in LA and it was in Orange County and it was an hour drive there and back and I wasn't getting paid. So finally I thought, you know, I need to do something a little bit more enriching than this.
Yeah.
But what happened was, yeah, I mean, I'm a Gemini, and Geminis change careers more than any other sign. And
Yeah.
so I could always, I can always tell when I'm talking to another Gemini because they're always changing careers. They get bored very easily. So when my son was a senior in high school, he had a project due, and he was to start a music blog. And I thought, I've always loved fashion, and I had bought the domain fashion over50.com. I had bought that. I don't even remember when, but I just thought one day I'm going to write about fashion. And so when he was a senior, I thought, you know what? It's now I'm just going to write about fashion. I had no plans on what I was going to do with it or how it was going to go, or anything like that. I was still looking for a job, and it was not really my plan on doing this full time. So here I
Very
am
much.
doing it full time.
That's great.
But yeah, so it's evolved. It's evolving. It's continually evolving. My job. Right now. I'm in New York Fashion Week, and I have been. Well, let me back up. Uh, I've been blogging, and I've also produced fashion shows in Chicago, where we had a week-long program which I developed, and we did runway training, which includes sitting up straight, which I'm probably not doing myself. Yes, at Union Core, and it's a 3 days of workshop on runway training, and we did facial makeover, makeup makeovers. We did a myriad of different things, styling, and so that was the most gratifying thing I've done of all, because the women really changed within that week, from the day 1 to day 6 of where the final, which was the fashion show at Bloomingdale's, and it was very, very rewarding. It was good for me to feel like I was giving back, and to be a part of this collaborative effort where the women were really supportive of one another. And so I did that, and I'm now developing another program to take place in Chicago, which is where I'm from, and which is where I know so many people. I know more people in Chicago than I do in LA, where I've lived for 35 years, because Chicago is a small town and LA is so spread out, and everybody in Chicago kind of knows everybody. So anyway, it's just easier for me to plan things there. And then, so after doing the fashion shows, I got recognized by some video, a wonderful company called Brut, B-R-U-T, and they're only on Facebook, and they do really meaningful little video vignettes of people who are doing different things around the country, around the world. And they did a little vignette about me, and I was very honored. And it was just about how I created this community of women. And so it kind of went viral-ish, and I got contacted by today.com about my styling advice for women over 50. And I thought this was like last year, or almost a year and a half ago, I guess. And I thought, if I'm going to be giving styling advice, I probably should learn something about styling.
Well, you need something formal, something more formal, because I have a hunch you already knew quite a bit about styling before.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, my mom was very stylish. I think it's very genetic. I think a lot of women I run into who are in fashion, their mothers were very fashionable too. I mean, it's not all genetic, but anyway, I did have a good sense of style, but I wanted to know more. And so starting last summer, I took classes in imaging and styling. I took online classes last semester. Now I'm in New York. While I'm here, I'm taking a couple other classes, and I just took a class. I just got certified in being a color analyst. And so I hope to kind of use all of those skills when I put my next fashion show together. And anyway,
that sounds exciting.
It's you know what, I love learning, and yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. And so you never, as long as you keep learning, it doesn't matter. You could be 100 or you could be, in high school. It's all fun. It's, and that's what keeps our brain stimulated, and that's what keeps us young, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of fun. And I can imagine that the transformation that you must have helped those women make in that runway class must have been very gratifying to see. So it really sounds like one of the midlife myths that you're busting is that you can still be fashionable after 50 or at any time in your life. Really, it's just a matter of thinking about it and figuring out what shapes fit your body best, what colors, these things that you're learning now, so that that sense that, well, once you hit midlife, you just kind of get frumpy and everything falls apart, is a bunch of baloney.
Well, number one, I think that it's society too. I've written articles about this too, about, I think, just the paradigm that exists in the United States and probably most around the world, I'm guessing, is that, as you get older, you decline in every way, mentally, physically. And I think that, as our generation is working out more, we're finding that we're more physically fit. And so all of that we're finding is really like, our grandmothers were just, they were a different generation than we are. We're our generation is reinventing everything. We're just reinventing aging. We're reinventing everything. So it's wonderful. And I think that, I stayed home with my kids and I did 2 very serious jobs. Being a nurse, and I was actually started on a floor where everyone was dying. It was an oncology floor. And so that's what got me going to law school, was I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this the rest of my life. It's called burnout. And so after a year and a half, I started to have burnout, and I thought, so I went back to law school at night. But anyway, I think that it's about, so I decided after all those careers, I want to have fun. It's my turn to have fun.
Something really fun.
Yeah. And I thought, what? Fashion is about fun, right? And who wants to stop having fun? Nobody, right?
Right.
It's like, and I think that our generation is not one that, really found fun in staying home, baking cookies. And,
there was for some that was really a very fulfilling thing. And I'm sure for you, when you were home, you enjoyed that time with your boys.
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know. I'd like to take a survey of the women who've had careers and then had kids and then stayed home. Because I think if you've had a career and then you stay home, I think it's hard, because you're used to having a lot of mental stimulation. And the women that I've spoken with who've quit their jobs and stayed home do struggle, I believe, because you're used to having adult conversations, intellectual conversations, and then you go to, changing diapers and, not really having much intellectual stimulation. So it's an adjustment. I think I had more of an adjustment quitting my job and raising my kids than I did going into midlife.
Well, I can understand that. I really think that, a lot of women, whether they've had a big career or a small career or worked in any fashion, for all of them, making that transition to being at home and not having that adult conversation, waiting hopefully for your husband to come home so that you can have somebody to talk to and someone to watch the kids so you can go to the bathroom without having to worry about it. I think that's probably true for so many women. They can relate to that. And I can understand what you're saying about that being such a big shift, maybe even more than the midlife shift. So it sounds like, that was one of the things that you struggled with in midlife. What other things do you recall that you ended up having to work through during that time?
During which time?
During your midlife time, in that stage between 40 and 55, somewhere in there. Or at least that's
that midlife for me was raising my kids. So I had my midlife was delayed until probably like I hit about 57 or 58. And I was, the one thing that really just devastated me was I was taking this class in healthcare law at UCLA, And my professor loved me, and I think I look younger than I am. Most people are surprised when I tell them I'm 65, and they think I'm probably in my 50s. And probably, I don't know how old he thought I was, but he kept telling me, send me your resume, send me your resume. And I'm like, I don't have a resume. I don't want to go back to work yet. My sons aren't going to college for another couple of years. Send me your resume. So I go, okay. And I go and hire someone to help me make a new resume, because they've all changed in the last 15 years or 16 years. I sent him my resume, and then I never hear a word from him. And he knew where I went to law school, everything about me, about my age. And I took that just stabbed me in the heart. I thought this guy knew everything about me. He knew my work content, because I was a student and I was writing essays for him, and he knew all about me. And we chatted, we talked. I kind of considered us friends, and then he'd never call. So this day, I'm just, that was a big blow. I thought for sure he'd at least call me and say, you know what, our position's filled, or, you know, but I never heard a word from him. And so I then saw him about 3 months later at a conference. He just kind of looked at me, you know, and he knew he should have contacted me, and he said something, and I said something that, you know, but that to me was like such a huge wake-up call. I thought, this is crazy. I said, I'm 56 or 7 years old, and you know, I don't know, there's no words to describe it. It was a big blow. So that was probably the biggest thing that turned me off, really, from looking for other jobs. I thought, you know, and I had the other gentleman from Medicare who was looking for me. And so that's how I ended up immersing myself more into the blogging, blogging world. And so, and I also had the toughest time for me actually was 1 year. And the 1 year was, my kids are a year apart in school. And so part of midlife is you're raising your kids and your parents are getting older. And I'm guessing other women have told you the same thing. And so you're kind of taking care of your younger kids and your older parents. And we're in that sandwich generation, which I was in. I was in for a while. My mom had Parkinson's, and I went back and forth between Chicago and Los Angeles every 6 weeks or so, because I was an RN. My dad depended on me. My stepdad depended on me to take care of my mom's medical issues.
Right.
So I was caring for my kids in LA and my mother in Chicago. Wow. And so that was, I felt very split, and I felt very guilty no matter where I was. I felt guilty if I wasn't with my mother. I felt guilty if I wasn't with my kids. And, you know, it's just the way it was.
Yeah.
So anyway, when my kids were getting ready to go to college, it was in 2012. And my mom passed away in July of 2012. And my older son went to college the next month. The very next month, my father went into hospice, and my parents were divorced. So, and then my dad died in January. And then my younger son went to college 6 months later. So and then my father-in-law died in October after my son went to college. So within a matter of like 14 months, everybody was gone. And so I could still cry over that year. So many years. And so what I did was I just immersed myself in writing articles about women who had reinvented themselves. And that's kind of like what really got my blog off the ground, was that it was really, I think, a lesson to be learned for a lot of women too, is that even during your darkest times, which, you know, it clearly was for me. It was a very hard time. And so I ended up digging really deep into my soul, and I prayed a lot. And I wrote articles after article after article, and I just would look for women like you and me doing unique things. And I would write articles about them, and I would call them, and I would put them on my Facebook page. And I started this interactive Facebook page, which really was one of my lifelines, because I would come home every night and I would see if anyone had written me, or if I had posted something to someone, if anyone liked it, liked them back, and I would engage them in conversation. And so I was really engaging with women virtually.
Mhm.
on the book page. And
Mhm.
so that writing articles were my lifeline during a very, very hard time when
Mhm.
I lost everybody within a
That
few
was
month
close to you.
period.
Wow.
And so, yeah, but you know, I mean, it really, that really helped catapult me into doing what I'm doing today. And so I guess maybe if there's a lesson to be learned,
Mhm.
it's that you you know, during your darkest times when you think that you know you just can't see a way out,
Mhm.
that if you keep on going and you do something that you love, I think you'll find your way out. And
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of successful at writing. So
Huh.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It depends on how you measure success. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I think a lot of times the fact that we have an expectation about how we want something, how we think something ought to go, that part is the most difficult part. It's what causes us so much stress and anxiety a lot of times. And if we can let go of that desire, that sense that something has to be a certain way, that we can follow the flow of what's happening and let it take its course naturally, like as you described, being able to, not knowing what the end result was going to be from this work that you were doing with your blog and the community that you were building online, and yet you had the faith to keep going, and that's what brought you here, even though you didn't know that this was the path that you were walking. And I think what you said about um, being able to be in touch with women virtually, it sounded like you were building yourself a community, even though maybe you didn't realize it at the time, a community of women who were like-minded people who were moving in a direction that you were interested in, and you were getting that interaction and feedback. And I think having that community of support in one way or another makes such a difference in being able to keep going when things are tough. And it sounds to me like that's one of the experiences that you had in starting your blog.
I think that, yeah, I think, yes. And I think in midlife, women really need to, if like the group where you and I met, I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was really important that we stick together and that
Yeah.
we are supportive of each other, because we're pioneers. We're charting new territory in the United States.
Yeah.
We're creating a whole new paradigm of what it is to get older.
Uh-huh.
And I think that when we have each other, it's to support each other, like what you're doing now, I think is fabulous. And
Thank
I
you.
admire you so much for doing this project. And I'm really interested. I hope you'll keep me posted on how this all comes out and what comes of it,
Of
because
course. Of
yeah,
course.
yeah, it's just fabulous that you're doing this and that we're all kind of creating new things
Mm-hmm.
for other, and you know, starting, I started this like 6 years ago, 2012. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost 7 years ago. And I talk to younger women now today, and they see all the new women, the older women that are now becoming models. You see Mae
Mm-hmm.
Musk, if you know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
And you see Iris Apfel was just signed in 97 to be a model at IMG model agency.
Mm-hmm.
So it's wonderful for younger women as well, because they're seeing that, you know, at 40 or 45, they're not just going to fall off a cliff,
Right.
which
Right.
is, I think, how our generation used to see it. You know, like, oh my God, I'm turning 35. I'm getting so old. Oh my God, I'm
Yeah, I
45. I mean,
know.
we were
Oh, I'm
all,
ancient. It's like totally. Well, it is. It's
it,
redefining. It's redefining midlife for ourselves and for that younger generation coming up, so that they don't settle with all those crazy ideas about
yeah.
how midlife is the end of the world.
Well, you know, it's a waste of time, number one, to worry. And
Yeah,
number two, it's like with the way healthcare is, we all could live into our 90s. And
if we're
so to
lucky.
regret getting older and worry about it is just such a waste of time, and you're not having fun. It's like,
I know.
you know, we need to set a good example about how to keep having fun as you get
Yes.
older, because we know no one wants to ever stop having fun, right? And I think
No.
that's a great thing for fashion. Fashion's a great way to express yourself, a great way to have fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, And so that's what I like. That's what I love about it is the fun part of fashion, and putting, and putting people together is another thing that I like to do as well.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
which is what you're doing.
I'm really looking forward to watching the new courses that you're going to be bringing out and the work that you're going to do in Chicago with the training sessions. I think it's just fantastic. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing that all develop. And I really want to thank you for being with us today. I really enjoy talking with you. It's always so refreshing to see, you're open-minded and you're curious and you want to learn, and life is just one big oyster for you to find the good things in. It's a great example for women coming along. So I want to thank you very much.
Well, good. Well, I just want who's ever listening to this to know. I mean, it's not all wonderful. It has its ups and downs.
No, it's true.
So, absolutely, yeah. I left my husband. He was never home. He came home every night at 8:00, and I was very lonely. And so that was tough. But you know what? I think that the lesson for everyone is that we have to keep growing no matter what our age. And so I would leave that with your audience, is that, is the only place you grow is outside of your comfort zone. And so if you're not happy in a marriage, if you're not happy what you're doing, it's no matter what age you are, it's like, if you want to spend the rest of your life being miserable, I don't think you do.
No,
I think
nobody really wants that. No.
If you could get the support of some friends or even someone that you could recommend them to, is to go for it. Go for it, because you've only got one life to live, and try to make the most of it. And
yeah, it is so true. I mean,
that's the best we can do in life.
That's one of the reasons I became a midlife coach, is because, as you say, to try to provide support for women that are struggling, and the idea of living the second half of your life and not really getting the most out of it, feeling like you've missed the boat, and you have to settle for what you have. It's just such a shame. And so, as a coach, that's what I help women do, is to realize that no, the ship hasn't sailed at all, and it's your time now, which is great to see people, come to that realization and be able to start living their life again fully. So yeah, it's been great.
I'm so glad you're doing this, because actually it's not over right till the fat lady sings. I mean,
that's exactly right.
I have written articles about women in their 80s doing new things, women in their 80s running marathons, women in their 90s.
There's all kinds of things that are happening.
I read an article. Yeah, I read an article that, I don't know how true this is, but it said that your peak in creativity is at 92 years old. So
wow.
I'm waiting.
Okay, so we have a lot to look forward to.
I haven't
right?
even peaked yet. None of us have peaked. Don't we? We have so much to look forward to. And I look forward to what you have to share as well. And I hope we'll stay in touch and be a support for each other as well.
I'm sure we will. All right. Well, thank you again. And I appreciate your time, and we will stay in touch. All right. Thank you, Wendy.
Okay. Please do.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. As a thank you for being here, I'd like to offer you my glorious second act workbook and planner. It's a great tool to help you gain clarity on what it is you want next in your life and to develop a plan to get you there. It's a totally free gift. The link is down below. So click the link, download your planner, and get started, taking action and creating a new and exciting second half to your life. I'm Jo Ann Kobuke, your midlife coach. Stop by again for another episode of Modern Midlife. See you next time.